What if I told you that a hit television show about the literal devil-like abandoning hell to run a Los Angeles nightclub and solve homicides in these tailored suits is actually one of the most accurate, deeply layered modern adaptations of a 2,000-year-old forbidden Christian mysticism?
I mean, it sounds completely absurd on the surface, right? You've got, police tape, piano ballads, witty banter.
Yes, exactly.
But when you strip away the procedural cop drama stuff, you are staring at this staggering, remarkably precise metaphysical framework.
Welcome to this deep dive. Today we are taking you on basically the ultimate esoteric Easter egg hunt.
Oh, totally. We brought a massive stack of sources to the table for this one.
We really did. We are pulling from ancient texts that were literally buried in the sands of Egypt for millennia, hidden away to avoid being burned by the Orthodox Church. Specifically, we're looking at the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Mary of Magdala, the Apocryphon of John, and the Gospel of Philip.
Right. And we are pairing these ancient scrolls with a forensic, scene-by-scene analytical breakdown of the cosmology in the television series Lucifer.
Because our mission today is to decode the hidden architecture of this show.
And this is the craziest part. The key to decoding this universe isn't actually the devil himself.
Wait, really?
Yeah. I mean, if you want to understand the actual engine driving this cosmic vehicle, you have to look at the women.
Wow, okay. So we're going to examine 5 specific women in the series today. Charlotte Richards, Dr. Linda Martin, Chloe Decker, Ella Lopez, and Mazikeen.
Yeah, those 5.
And the thesis we are testing today is that these 5 characters aren't just, a supporting cast to a devilish leading man. They're the actual metaphysical engines driving the salvation of the entire universe.
Which is a bold claim, but the ancient texts back it up perfectly.
Right.
But to see those connections, we really have to establish the foundational philosophy we're using here. It's an esoteric school of thought from early antiquity known broadly as Gnosticism.
Okay, let's ground that term really quick, because Gnosticism sounds like a secret society task word or something.
It really does.
If you grew up in a standard Western religious tradition, the basic narrative you're given is pretty linear, right? Like a loving, perfect God created the material world. The material world is inherently good. Humans messed it up. And salvation comes through having faith and following God's rules.
Exactly, the standard narrative.
But Gnosticism takes that entire blueprint and turns it completely upside down.
It radically flips the script. We have to remember that in the 1st and 2nd centuries, early Christianity was incredibly diverse.
Right, it wasn't just one thing.
No, not at all. There wasn't one unified Bible or a single orthodox set of beliefs yet. You had all these various groups trying to make sense of the divine. And the Gnostics were one of these vibrant, parallel streams of thought.
Until they got in trouble.
Right, until they were branded heretics by early church fathers like Irenaeus of Lyons. Their texts were hunted down and destroyed, which is why the Nag Hammadi library is so crucial to our sources today.
And just to clarify for everyone, that's the collection of Gnostic texts hidden in sealed jars in Egypt, right? The ones discovered in 1945.
Yes, exactly. Those texts survived.
So what was the idea that was so dangerous it had to be buried in the desert? It was their view of the physical universe, basically.
In Gnostic thought, the material world isn't a beautiful garden created by a loving father.
Oh, far from it.
It is a heavily compromised, flawed system. It is, for all intents and purposes, a prison.
A prison managed by ignorant, deeply flawed rulers known as archons.
Archons, okay.
Yeah, these archons enforce the rigid laws of the physical world. And they serve a distant creator deity known as the Demiurge.
The Demiurge, that's the bad guy, basically.
Well, the Demiurge believes he is the ultimate omnipotent god of the universe. He demands worship, he creates strict rules, and he is often, jealous and wrathful.
Like the Old Testament God.
Right, exactly. But the secret of Gnosticism is that the Demiurge is actually a fragmented, lesser offshoot of the true, infinite, unknowable source of light. So it's like, if the world is a rigged prison run by an arrogant middle manager who just thinks he's the CEO, you can't get out by following the prison's rules.
Right. Following the rules just keeps you trapped in the system.
Wow. So how do you get out?
Well, salvation in this framework has absolutely nothing to do with blindly following laws, attending a church, or having faith in external authorities. Salvation comes exclusively through gnosis.
Which is the Greek word for knowledge, right?
It is, but it doesn't mean intellectual book smarts. It means an internal, deeply experiential realization of the divine spark that is trapped inside of you.
Oh, I see.
You have to wake up and realize your true essence doesn't belong to the demiurge's messy material world. It belongs to the infinite light beyond it.
So every character in Lucifer is essentially playing out this massive cosmic escape room.
That's a great way to put it.
And the women are holding the keys. So to understand how a universe breaks down and reforms, you have to start at the absolute top of the cosmic hierarchy. Let's look at Charlotte Richards.
Yes. Which immediately diverges from the traditional Judeo-Christian narrative. Because at the very top of the Gnostic hierarchy, the ultimate source of all reality isn't a solitary male creator god.
Right.
It is an infinite, incomprehensible source, often conceptualized in feminine or dualistic terms.
Okay, so in the show, we are introduced to God and his wife, the goddess of creation. They're presented as this primordial celestial couple who formed the universe together before having a massive falling out.
Yeah, they had a pretty messy cosmic divorce.
Totally. And the analytical breakdowns in our sources point out that this directly echoes the ancient Canaanite religion of the Bronze Age Levant, right? The geographical region where early Israelite beliefs formed.
Yes. In that historical context, the sky god, El, was married to a powerful consort named Asherah.
Right, Asher.
The show clearly pulls from that history. But as the goddess's arc progresses on screen, she maps to an even deeper, more complex Gnostic concept.
Okay, lay it on me.
She aligns with the concept of the monad, or the pleroma, which translates to the divine fullness.
Divine full.
Right. In Gnostic cosmology, the monad is the absolute, uncorrupted, infinite source of everything. It exists in a state of perfect harmony, entirely separate from the chaotic, flawed material world that the demiurge creates later.
Okay, so look at the trajectory of the goddess in the series. She is trapped in hell by her husband. She escapes, and she inhabits the body of a recently murdered defense attorney named Charlotte Richards.
Right. She basically possesses her.
Yeah. She spends a season trying to manipulate her sons, Lucifer and Amenadiel, so she can wage war on heaven. But ultimately, she has an epiphany. She realizes she cannot stay in this universe.
It's too broken for her.
Exactly. It's too broken, too painful. She takes the flaming sword, slices a literal hole in the fabric of reality, and leaves to create her own flawless universe. Her exact words are that she wants a world without the, quote, poop of the old one.
It's a surprisingly crude but accurate depiction of the monad, separating from the demiurge's flawed creation to return to a state of uncorrupted purity. She acts as the ultimate source.
Okay, that makes sense.
But the metaphysical mechanics of what happens after she steps through that tear in reality introduce a very specific idea from Valentinian Gnosticism.
Valentinus was a major theologian in the 2nd century, right? Like, he almost became the Bishop of Rome before his ideas were deemed a little too radical.
He was incredibly influential. And one of the core tenets of his specific school of thought, which is heavily referenced in the Gospel of Philip, is the concept of the two Sophias.
Sophia is the Greek word for wisdom, yeah.
Exactly. In the Valentinian mythos, Sophia is a divine entity from the higher realm who accidentally initiates the creation of the flawed material world. She essentially tries to create something on her own without her divine balancing partner.
Because the concept of pairs is huge in this framework, right? The syzygy.
Yes, syzygy literally translates to being yoked together. Gnostics believe divine forces operate in perfectly balanced male-female pairs.
Oh, I love that word, syzygy.
It's a great word. So when Sophia tries to create unilaterally, without her partner, the result is a cosmic anomaly. It's a sort of metaphysical abortion that results in the birth of the demiurge and the subsequent creation of the material universe.
Yikes.
Yeah, it's a huge cosmic mistake. And because of this trauma, Sophia's nature is fractured. She is split into two entities, a higher Sophia and lower Sophia.
Oh, wow. And the show visualizes this split flawlessly, because while the goddess is occupying the human body of Charlotte Richards, she is the higher Sophia.
Exactly.
She is a literal divine being full of celestial light, squeezed into a human meat suit. She's struggling with the physical constraints, trying to understand human limitation, feeling hunger and physical pain for the first time.
And the moment the goddess departs through that cosmic tear, leaving the universe behind, the lower Sophia drops back in.
The real Charlotte.
Yes, the actual human Charlotte Richards gasps back to life on a beach. The Gospel of Philip refers to this lower wisdom as the Sophia of death.
The Sophia of death, that's incredibly poetic.
It is. This lower aspect is intimately, painfully tied to the trauma of the material world. When the real Charlotte wakes up, she has fragmented memories of being dead. She remembers the darkness of hell.
Right, she thought she was just having a nightmare.
Exactly. She looks around at her life and realizes she has been a deeply corrupt, manipulative lawyer defending the worst criminals in Los Angeles. She is consumed by guilt, terror, and a desperate need for redemption.
She is the fallen wisdom. She's sitting in the ruins of her own terrible choices, desperately trying to earn her way out of the darkness she woke up in. But she doesn't navigate that path alone.
No, she doesn't.
Detective Dan Espinosa steps in. And I want to pause here because Dan is often viewed as the show's punching bag, but in this framework, his role is structurally vital.
Oh, absolutely. Dan represents the struggling human soul.
How so?
Well, ancient Gnosticism categorized humanity into three distinct camps. You have the Halics, who are entirely bound by matter and driven purely by physical appetites.
So think of the corrupt cop Malcolm from the first season.
Perfect example.
The guy comes back from hell and just compulsively eats everything in sight. He has zero spiritual awareness. He is purely physical hunger and survival.
A perfect example of a Hylic. On the other end of the spectrum, you have the Pneumatics, the fully spirit-infused individuals, who we will explore a bit later.
Right.
But the vast majority of humanity falls into the middle category, the Psychics. Now, the ancient Greek word psychekos doesn't mean someone who can read minds or predict the future.
Right. It's not like a carnival psychic.
Exactly. It refers to someone governed by the psyche, the soul. The psychic person is stuck in the middle, torn between messy, flawed material impulses and the faint, intuitive pull of the divine spark within.
That is Dan Espinosa to a T. I mean, he is constantly embroiled in convoluted messes of his own making. He desperately tries to follow the rules, the police codes, the rigid laws of society, which is exactly what the Demiurge wants him to do, because the Demiurge loves obedience to the law.
Right, the system demands compliance.
But following the rules just keeps getting Dan into deeper trouble. Then he meets the human Charlotte, the lower Sophia. He falls in love with her. When she confesses her deep terror of going back to hell, he doesn't run away. He actively helps her find her moral compass.
And in doing so, Dan is executing what the Gnostics call the work of restoration.
The work of restoration.
Yeah. The Gospel of Philip spends a lot of time discussing the mystery of the bridal chamber.
Okay, explain that one.
In this context, the bridal chamber is not a literal human marriage. It is a profound spiritual mechanism. The human soul must unite with its fallen divine counterpart to achieve wholeness and escape the material prison. Dan's relationship with Charlotte is the earthly reflection of this cosmic mechanism.
That is beautiful.
By helping the fallen Sophia return to the light, by guiding her towards selfless acts, he is performing the very act that elevates his own soul.
Okay, but I have to interject with a logistical question about the mechanism of all this. So it's like the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company stepping down, wiping her own memory, and becoming a low-level intern in the most dysfunctional department just to see how bad it is.
That's a great analogy.
Why couldn't the goddess, the monad, just snap her fingers and fix the universe from the top down? Why was the trauma of being trapped in Charlotte's body necessary for her evolution?
You're touching on the core mechanism of Gnostic evolution right there. The divine spark cannot truly know itself until it has something dark to contrast against. Pure, infinite light has no shape without shadows.
Oh, wow. No shape without shadow.
Right. When the goddess first arrives on Earth, she is resentful, aloof, and highly destructive. She views humanity as temporary, insignificant toys.
She literally wants to smite people all the time.
Exactly. But her time trapped in Charlotte's body forces her to experience the crushing weight of limitation. She has to physically feel grief. She has to experience the vulnerability of a mother trying to protect her children.
So the physical limitation forces her to develop empathy.
Empathy. Exactly. The Gnostic journey is not just a path for humans trying to escape. It is a cosmic process of self-realization for the divine itself. By experiencing the flaw of the Demiurge's world firsthand, the monad gains the ultimate wisdom needed to create a better universe.
That makes so much sense.
The material world, as terrible as it is, acts as a necessary crucible. She needed the human experience of suffering to understand what she must leave out of her new creation.
She had to get her hands dirty to understand the mud.
Precisely.
Which brings us to a critical pivot point. Because if Charlotte represents the overwhelming, infinite divine light of the source, how does a fragile, mortal human actually survive a direct encounter with it?
It's usually fatal, mentally or physically.
Right. So we have to move from the infinite source to the human mind tasked with processing all this cosmic chaos. We need to talk about Dr. Linda Martin.
Oh, Dr. Linda is arguably the most structurally important character for translating this Gnostic framework into a narrative we can follow. If Charlotte is the ultimate light, Linda is the lens that focuses it, so humanity doesn't burn to a crisp. In mythological terms, Dr. Linda Martin serves as the psychopomp.
A psychopomp, so a guide of souls, like Charon ferrying the dead across the river Styx in Greek mythology.
Yes, exactly like that. A psychopomp guides souls across thresholds. But a psychopomp, in the Gnostic sense, doesn't just ferry dead people to the afterlife. They guide the living through the terrifying liminal spaces between total ignorance and full enlightenment.
And Linda does this entirely within the realm of the mind.
She does. Let's look at the Gospel of Mary of Magdala for a second. This text is incredibly important because it completely discards the later Orthodox invention of Mary as a repentant prostitute.
Right, which was totally made up centuries later.
Completely fabricated. In this text, Mary is the premier apostle. She's a visionary who understands the deeper internal mechanisms of Jesus' teachings far better than Peter or the other male disciples.
She is the spiritual heavyweight of the group.
She really is. In the text, Mary recounts a vision of the Savior, and she asks him a highly technical question about the mechanics of prophecy. She asks whether a person sees a prophetic vision through the soul or through the spirit.
Okay, getting into the weeds, what's the answer?
The Savior responds, and this is a direct quote, "A person does not see with the soul or with the spirit. Rather, the mind, which exists between these two, sees the vision."
The mind, which exists between these two. That phrase perfectly encapsulates Linda Martin's therapy office.
Doesn't it?
She is that mediating mind. She sits squarely in the middle, translating the chaotic struggles of human souls on one side and the overwhelming, terrifying nature of celestial spirits on the other.
Think about the function of her therapy office. It is essentially the one sanctuary in the entire universe where the rigid laws and lies of the demiurge's prison hold no power.
The archons, the demiurge, the material world, they operate on deception, distraction, and a strict adherence to hierarchical rules.
Yeah.
But when Lucifer Morningstar sits on Linda's couch, she systematically strips all of that away.
She is the gatekeeper of truth. The Greeks called it aletheia, unconcealment.
Aletheia.
Yes. And she doesn't achieve this by handing Lucifer a religious rulebook. That is the demiurge's playbook. Here are the 10 Commandments, follow them blindly or suffer eternally.
Right, right.
Linda uses the Socratic method. She asks probing questions. She forces the literal devil to analyze his own defense mechanisms and look at his own flaws.
Which is the exact operational definition of gnosis.
Wow.
According to the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus says, "If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you."
That is one of my favorite quotes from the Nag Hammadi texts.
It's so powerful. Gnosis cannot be handed down as an external law from a priest or a deity. It is a process of internal excavation. Linda acts as the midwife for that internal discovery. She helps Lucifer bring forth what is within him.
But there is a massive turning point where this purely intellectual exercise becomes violently physically real for her. We have to talk about the baptism of fire.
Oh man, this scene.
The goddess, while occupying Charlotte's body, grows frustrated with Linda's psychological probing. She doesn't want to do the internal work. So, to prove her divinity, the goddess unzips her human disguise and reveals her true, unshielded divine light directly to Linda.
And it practically melts Linda's brain.
It does.
She is left paralyzed, trembling in the corner of her office in a state of absolute catatonia.
This maps flawlessly to the Gnostic concept of the baptism of fire. In texts like the Gospel of Philip and the Gospel of Thomas, there's a sharp distinction drawn between the baptism of water and the baptism of fire.
Okay, what's the difference?
The water baptism is for the masses, the psychics. It's a ritual of purification. But the baptism of fire is reserved for the elect. It is dangerous. Jesus says in Thomas, "I have cast fire upon the world, and see, I am guarding it until it blazes."
Wow. So when Linda sees the true face of the monad, it isn't a gentle, comforting religious revelation.
No, not at all.
It is an ego-shattering, terrifying encounter with absolute reality. It incinerates the illusion of the material world in a single second.
Imagine the psychological toll of that.
I mean, think about it. Her entire understanding of reality, her medical degree, her mortgage, paying taxes, sitting in traffic on the 405 freeway, is suddenly revealed to be a tiny, fragile paper mask stretched over a raging cosmic inferno.
Exactly.
For anyone listening, think about a moment in your life where your foundational reality shattered. A sudden career loss, the unexpected death of a loved one, a betrayal. You experience this terrifying void where the rules you thought govern the world suddenly disappear.
That is a brilliant real-world application. Because in those moments of existential crisis, you have a choice. Many who encounter the unvarnished, terrifying truth of reality break under the pressure. Their minds shatter.
But Linda eventually chooses to integrate the trauma.
Yes, she crawls out of her catatonia,
Okay.
accepts the new reality, and becomes what the sources call the scientist of the supernatural. She uses her mediating mind to categorize the divine chaos. She creates a new framework to survive.
And she pushes that integration even further in later seasons. She literally bridges the celestial and material realms by having a baby, Charlie, with the angel Amenadiel.
Yes, little baby Charlie.
Charlie is a Nephilim. Historically, a Nephilim is the offspring of angels and humans, often viewed in Orthodox texts as an abomination, right?
Usually, yes. They are seen as monsters.
But here, Charlie is the physical embodiment of the union between high light and low earth. Linda literally gives birth to an integrated universe.
It is the ultimate manifestation of the mind bridging the soul and the spirit.
Wait, hold on, though. This raises a major red flag for me.
Okay, what is it?
If Lucifer is an immortal celestial being who has existed since the dawn of time, and he's a divine spirit, shouldn't he inherently know everything? Like, why does the literal devil need a mortal human with a notepad to explain his own feelings to him?
It's a great observation, and it highlights a major Gnostic critique of divine power. In the Gnostic texts, particularly the Apocryphon of John, the Archons, and even the Demiurge himself, are fundamentally blind to their own true nature.
What?
Yes. They are powerful, yes, but they lack self-awareness. The Demiurge arrogantly declares, "I am a jealous god, and there is no other god beside me." He doesn't even realize he's a lesser, fragmented being.
He genuinely believes his own hype.
Exactly. The angels and the archons are so locked into their programmed functions, ruling, punishing, enforcing the physical laws, that they operate almost like celestial robots running outdated software.
So they have immense cosmic power, but zero internal gnosis.
Precisely. Lucifer, as the rebellious spirit, intuitively knows the Demiurge's system is flawed, which is why he rebelled. But he is still entirely blinded by his own trauma, his narcissism, and his programming as the Punisher.
He's stuck in his own loop.
Right. Humanity in the Gnostic myth often possesses a brighter, more agile, divine spark than the rigid angels who guard them. Lucifer needs Linda's mediating human mind to force him to look inward. The humans have to teach the guys how to be self-aware.
Okay, so Linda proves the human mind can process this cosmic truth. But understanding truth in a therapy office doesn't actually change the outside world.
No, it doesn't.
For the system to actually break, someone has to take that theoretical truth and weaponize it in messy, physical reality. The divine needs a catalyst on the ground. Which brings us to Chloe Decker.
Chloe Decker is perhaps the most explicit manifestation of a specific Gnostic figure in the entire series.
Let's hear it.
To understand her function, we have to look directly at the Apocryphon of John. This text tells the story of how humanity was imprisoned by the Archons in dense physical bodies. But the ultimate divine source takes pity on Adam.
Okay.
Let me read directly from the source. It says, "So with his benevolent spirit and great mercy, the Mother-Father sent a helper to Adam, an enlightened afterthought who was from the Mother-Father and who was called Life. She helped the whole creature, laboring with it, restoring it to his fullness."
An enlightened afterthought. That is a wild title.
It is. She is called the Epinoia.
The Epinoia.
Yes. The Epinoia is placed into the material prison as a seed of light. She acts as a hidden catalyst. She is concealed within humanity so the Archons won't recognize her. But her specific purpose is to restore what the divine spirits are lacking. Chloe Decker operates exactly as this Epinoia.
I mean, the show makes this incredibly literal. Chloe isn't just a regular human born by chance. She is a miracle.
The literal miracle baby.
Yeah, we find out midway through the series that God the Demiurge in this framework sent his chief angel, Amenadiel, down to Earth decades ago to bless a specific human couple so Chloe would be born.
Right.
She was literally manufactured and placed directly in Lucifer's path, which honestly I have a major problem with.
I know exactly where you're going with this.
If God manufactured Chloe simply to be a perfect emotional puzzle piece for his rebellious son, how does she have any free will? That sounds like cosmic stalking. It's the ultimate patriarchal control mechanism.
And if you are looking at it through a traditional theological lens, where God's plan is absolute and binding, your critique is entirely valid. It completely strips her of agency.
Right.
But if we view this through the Gnostic framework, your frustration actually highlights the brilliance of her triumph.
Okay, how so?
In Gnosticism, the entire material world is a rigged system. The Demiurge designed the blueprint to keep everyone trapped in endless cycles of ignorance and predictability. Every human is born into a matrix they didn't choose.
So her being a pawn is just the standard operating procedure for the universe.
Yes, the Demiurge placing her there as a pacifying tool is just how archons operate. Chloe's miracle isn't the circumstances of her birth. Her miracle is her autonomy.
Oh, I see.
She acts as the ultimate hacker of the system. The Demiurge's blueprint might have placed her in Lucifer's path to control him, but she hijacks the code.
She hacks the matrix.
Exactly. She chooses to love him organically. She takes a predestined archonic trap and through the sheer force of her own divine spark, rewrites it into a genuine choice of the soul.
She turns the matrix against its creator. And the mechanism of how she does this is the most fascinating dynamic in the show. Chloe makes Lucifer physically vulnerable.
Yes, she does. When he is near her, his invulnerability fades. He bleeds. He can be shot. He can be killed.
In Gnostic thought, the spirit represented by Lucifer is incredibly powerful and infinite, but it can also be arrogant, detached, and aloof. It thinks it knows everything because it sits above the material fray.
Right, he doesn't really care about humanity at first.
But the mechanism of the syzygy demands balance. When the arrogant spirit encounters true wisdom, the epinoia, it becomes vulnerable to the material world. It is forced to ground itself. The spirit cannot evolve if it is impervious to the pain of the world it inhabits.
Wow. So Chloe acts as a physical and spiritual mirror. Throughout the series, Lucifer struggles with his devil face. He deeply believes he is a monster, so his celestial body physically manifests as a burned, horrifying monster.
It reflects his internal guilt.
Right, but Chloe strips that away. She refuses to look at him and see the warden of hell. She sees the Lightbringer. She forces him to look into her eyes and see his own internal light.
It's a profound moment of gnosis.
And the crucial distinction here is that she didn't fix him. She didn't swoop in and save the bad boy. She revealed him to himself.
And it is vital to note where Chloe does this work. Unlike Charlotte, the higher Sophia, who literally cuts a hole in the universe to escape to a flawless realm, Chloe stays.
She's the lower Sophia in the trenches. She stays in the LAPD. She deals with murder, betrayal, blood, and the absolute worst of the material world every single day.
She gets her hands dirty.
She proves that the divine spark shouldn't just flee the material world the moment it realizes its true nature. The epinoia stays to restore the creature to its fullness. She actively works to redeem the prison from the inside out.
Which is an exhausting, brutal struggle for her.
It really is. She has to fight for every inch of justice. But what about someone who doesn't have to struggle to find the light? Someone who is just naturally, effortlessly radiant.
Yes.
We are moving from the struggling trenches to the embodiment of the uncorrupted spirit, Ella Lopez.
Ella is an absolute joy to analyze through this lens. Remember earlier when we discussed the three types of humanity? The Hylics, who are purely material, and the psychics like Dan, who are struggling in the middle.
Yeah, the three categories.
Well, Ella represents the rarest category, the pneumatic human.
Pneuma meaning breath or spirit.
Yes. A pneumatic person is fully, inherently infused with the spirit. They're naturally awake to the divine reality, even if they don't use theological terms to describe it.
They just intuitively get it.
Right. In the Gnostic texts, particularly in the hypostasis of the archons, there is a figure named Zoe.
Zoe literally translates to life.
Yes, Zoe is the daughter of Sophia, sent to breathe vital life into the stagnant, oppressive material world. Ella Lopez is the ultimate pneumatic embodiment of Zoe, and the show illustrates this in a beautifully literal way through her relationship with death.
This is one of my favorite details in the entire series. When Ella was a kid, she survived a horrific car crash. And ever since that near-death experience, she has had a best friend named Ray Ray. She thinks Ray Ray is just a friendly ghost. But it turns out Ray Ray is actually Azrael, the angel of death.
The symbolism here is incredibly rich. Ella, who represents life, is in constant, friendly, fearless communication with death.
It's so poetic.
In the Gnostic view, the physical body is merely a temporary garment. It's an illusion created by the demiurge. Therefore, a truly pneumatic soul isn't terrified of physical death, because they know the end of the physical body is just the shedding of a costume.
Life and death can just sit on the hood of a car and casually chat as friends because death holds no real power over the spirit.
Yeah, exactly.
And look at her career. She is a forensic scientist for the LAPD. She literally spends her days looking at the absolute smallest, grittiest details of the material world. Hair fibers, blood spatters, dirt under a victim's fingernails.
Yes, the science of the micro.
In Gnosticism, the divine spark was shattered and scattered across the physical universe when the world was created. Pieces of God are trapped in the mud.
You're hitting on the core of the divine spark theory right there. By looking at the micro-level crime scenes, she is essentially gathering the scattered pieces of the truth.
Right.
She is using the science of the micro to piece together the macro truth of what happened. She finds the light, the narrative, in the most violent, dark places imaginable.
But even a pneumatic soul is tested. Ella goes through a profound crisis of faith, her dark arc.
Yes, she goes through a really rough patch.
She unknowingly dates a guy named Pete, who turns out to be an actual serial killer. She goes on a bender in Vegas. And most devastatingly, after Charlotte Richards is murdered, Ella completely loses her Catholic faith. She stops praying, she takes off her cross necklace.
But look at the mechanism of what doesn't happen.
What do you mean?
When she is completely surrounded by darkness, when she is literally sleeping next to a serial killer who hides bodies in his garden, the darkness does not fundamentally corrupt her.
Oh, right. She doesn't become evil.
The Gnostic texts heavily emphasize that the divine spark is incorruptible. It can be hidden, it can be confused by the archons, but it cannot be altered by the demiurge's world.
She's like a spiritual diamond dropped into the mud. You can surround her with the darkest, most awful parts of humanity, but the dirt just slides right off. She doesn't become malicious or cruel. She just becomes a more vigilant, fiercely protective, good person.
And her loss of traditional religious faith is actually her ultimate victory.
Really? How so?
In Gnosticism, moving away from external religion-blind faith in a distant, rule-making God is a necessary, painful step toward true enlightenment. When Ella eventually finds her joy again, it isn't because she decides to blindly trust the Heavenly Father's mysterious plan.
Right. She doesn't just put the cross back on and ignore the pain.
Exactly. It's because she realizes that she is the source of the light. She is the one giving the hugs. She is the one bringing the life to the precinct. Shedding her external religion forces her to transition to true internal gnosis. She chooses to be Zoe not because a rulebook tells her to, but because she finally understands it is her fundamental nature.
That is it's beautiful. We've looked at humans discovering their divine nature, whether through intellectual therapy, action on the ground, or effortless spirit. But what about a creature that was literally designed from the ground up to have no soul at all?
Ah, we have arrived at the demon.
We are moving to our final subject, Mazikeen, Maze. Because if Ella is the effortless light, Maze is the most radical, violent success story of the Gnostic prison break imaginable.
Understand Mazikeen, we have to talk about the wardens of the prison, the archons.
Okay, bring him back in.
In the Gospel of Mary, Mary describes the soul's ascent past various powers that actively seek to keep it bound to the lower material world. The text names 4 specific powers: darkness, desire, ignorance, and wrath.
Those sound like a fun bunch.
Right, these are the archons. And it is vital to understand the mechanism of an archon. In Gnosticism, archons aren't evil, in the malicious, mustache-twirling way we typically use the word. They are functionaries.
Just clocking in and out.
They are blindly following their programming to enforce the rules of the demiurge's system.
They are the middle management from hell. Literally. And Maze starts the series as the ultimate functionary. She is a demon of the Lilim. She is Lucifer's head torturer. She has no soul, no empathy, no higher awareness. She is pure materialism and violence. She is the literal embodiment of the archons of wrath and desire. She is just doing the job.
But when Lucifer brings her to Earth, she is removed from the strict archonic hierarchy of hell. And by interacting with humans, specifically with Chloe and Linda, she starts to experience a glitch in her programming.
She starts feeling desire, but not the archonic desire for lust or violence. She starts feeling a desperate desire for belonging. She wants connection. She wants friends, which, according to the demiurge's rigid rules, a demon isn't supposed to be capable of.
The catalyst for this glitch is deeply poignant. It is Chloe's young daughter, Trixie.
Yes. Trixie and Maze.
Trixie represents innocent gnosis. She is the pure spark that hasn't yet been conditioned by the Archon's world to fear the darkness. When Trixie meets this terrifying leather-clad demon bartender, she isn't scared at all. She embraces her unconditionally.
She just thinks she's cool.
Exactly.
Oh.
And by looking into the eyes of the pure spark, Maze is forced to accept herself. The Archon realizes she is more than just a functionary.
And then the show gives us the backstory of Maze's mother, Lilith. In an amazing noir-style episode, we learn that Lilith placed her immortality into a ring so she could live a fragile, mortal human life. She actively chose to age, wrinkle, and die.
Which is a beautiful inversion of the typical escape narrative.
Yeah, why would you choose that?
Lilith chooses the descent of the spirit into matter. She chooses the messy, painful, finite human experience over the sterile, unchanging perfection of soulless immortality.
And Maze eventually follows this path of humanizing the divine. She stops trying to be the queen of hell. She becomes a bounty hunter, which is structurally brilliant. She's still hunting, still engaging with her nature, but she's living on the fringes, maintaining her autonomy outside the Demiurge's system. And eventually, she falls in love and marries a human woman, Eve.
It's an incredible character arc.
Oh, wait, let me play devil's advocate here.
Go for it.
Isn't the whole point of Gnosticism to escape the material body? To get away from the messy human emotions and return to the pure, formless light of the pleroma? Why is a soulless demon gaining a human soul, feeling pain, and marrying a human seen as a victory? Isn't she just tying herself tighter to the Demiurge's sinking ship?
It is a fantastic question, and the answer lies in understanding one of the most cryptic sayings in the Gospel of Thomas.
Okay, what does it say?
Jesus says, "Blessed is the lion which becomes man when consumed by man, and curses the man whom the lion consumes, and the lion becomes man."
You are definitely going to have to translate the mechanism of that metaphor.
I know, it's a bit of a riddle. In Gnostic symbolism, the lion represents the wild, passionate, animalistic nature of the material world, the raw archonic forces.
Okay.
If the material world, the lion, consumes the spiritual person, that is a tragedy. The divine spark is lost in the darkness of bodily appetites.
Right.
But if the spiritual person, the man, consumes the lion, if they integrate that wild, raw energy and transform it with consciousness, that is a profound blessing. Maze is the lion that becomes man.
She is the machine that develops a heart.
Exactly. Her gaining a soul isn't a demotion to the material realm. It is the ultimate defeat of the Demiurge's rigid system. The creator system explicitly stated that demons do not have souls. The system said archons cannot love.
And she proved it wrong.
By growing a soul through her own autonomous choices, her pain, and her love for Eve and Trixie, Maze proves that the prison itself is capable of redemption. The boundaries drawn by the creator are illusions.
My mind is officially blown. When we look at the women of Lucifer through this ancient, buried framework, they completely cease to be a supporting cast.
They really do.
They aren't orbiting the devil's redemption arc, they are facilitating it. They map the entire Gnostic cosmos. Charlotte provides the ultimate source, the monad experiencing the flaw to create something better. Linda provides the mediating mind of the psychopomp that makes the divine intelligible. Chloe provides the mirror of action, the epinoia that forces the spirit to ground itself. Ella provides the incorruptible life force, the Zoe finding God in the grit. And Maze proves that even the darkest, most rigid parts of the prison can transcend their programming.
It's a remarkably complete metaphysical architecture.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? The core message of both the show and these ancient texts is incredibly empowering. It redefines the concept of damnation. It tells us that hell isn't a geographical location with fire and brimstone where a judgmental god sends you for breaking a list of arbitrary rules.
No, not at all.
Hell is a self-imposed cell. In the show, the doors to hell are literally unlocked. The demons don't keep the souls there. The only thing keeping the souls trapped in their torture loops is their own unresolved guilt, their own ignorance, and their own attachment to the material world. You keep yourself in hell.
And Lucifer only realizes his true purpose when he stops seeing himself as the Punisher, the role the Demiurge assigned him, and becomes the healer. He turns hell from a torture chamber into a massive therapy office.
He takes a page out of Linda's book.
He really does. He helps souls achieve their own internal gnosis so they can forgive themselves and walk out the door. It is the ultimate shift from external law to internal liberation.
I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. We've spent this entire deep dive talking about the Demiurge's prison, the archons, and the rigged matrix within the context of ancient theology and a television show. But take a look at your own life.
Oh, this is the real takeaway.
Look at the algorithms that feed your social media, designed to keep you trapped in a loop of outrage and desire. Look at the corporate ladders you are told you must climb to have value. Look at the societal rules of success that dictate how you should look, what you should buy, and how you should behave.
Are you living in your own demiurgic prison?
Ask yourself, who are the archons holding your keys? What external systems are demanding your blind obedience? If Dr. Linda Martin acts as the psychopomp within the reality of the show, observing the chaos, analyzing the patterns, and seeking the truth behind the illusions, aren't you doing the exact same thing right now? By analyzing these stories, by looking past the surface of pop culture to find deeper meaning, you are acting as your own psychopomp. You are seeking your own internal gnosis. Keep seeking the light in the mud. Keep questioning the system. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.